Reflections of points. So what exactly is a reflection? Well, a reflection is a mirror image of a figure or point on the opposite side of a line. So here we have a reflection in nature, and this mountain is being reflected in this body of water. And I just drew this line here, but you can see how it's being reflected across the line. Here's another example. It's just a line that I drew here, and that landscape's being reflected. And there's one more little example. Now in math, we can reflect points, we can reflect lines, we can reflect shapes, and we do this on a coordinate plane. So let's take a look at this. What would happen if I took the ordered pair 3, 3, and I changed the x-coordinate? Now remember, the first coordinate is your x-coordinate. So what would happen if I changed it from 3 to negative 3? Well, look what happens. It ends up jumping or reflecting across the y-axis. So when I changed the x, it reflected over y. Well, what would happen if you did the opposite? What if instead of changing the x, I changed the y? And I changed it from 3 to negative 3. Well, look what happens. Instead of jumping over the y like it did last time, it's jumping over the x-axis. So when you change the y, it jumps over the x, or it reflects across the x-axis. Well, what would happen if I took both of those points and I took the opposite of both those points? So instead of 3, 3, I did negative 3, negative 3. Well, this is interesting. Look what happens. It actually ends up reflecting across the x, and it ends up reflecting across the y. It reflects across both. So let's try a couple of these. Here we have the point 7, 3. And I want to reflect across the y-axis. I want it to reflect across the y. Well, remember, if I want it to reflect across the y, change the x. So I'm going to change the x from 7, 3 to negative 7, 3. Negative 7, 3. So look what happens. It reflects across the y-axis. Let's try another one. Same thing. I have a point here, 7, negative 9. 7, negative 9. And I'd like to reflect again across the y-axis. So to do that, if you want to reflect across the y, change the x. So I'm going to change the x from positive 7 to negative 7. So I'm going to do negative 7, negative 9. And negative 7, negative 9 would be located right here. This is negative 7, negative 9. So it's reflecting across the y-axis. Let's try some over the x. Let's reflect over the x-axis. How do you do that? Well, here we have the point negative 6, negative 4. And I want to reflect, this time, across the x-axis. Well, if you want to reflect across the x, change the y. Take the opposite of the y. So the opposite of the y would be positive 4. So negative 6, positive 4 would be right here. Negative 6, positive 4. So you see how it reflects across the x-axis. We get a reflection. We get a mirror image. Let's try another one. Now on this point, negative 4, positive 8, negative 4, 8, I want to reflect across both the x and y. Well, if you want to reflect across both the x and y, change both the x and y. So I'm going to change this to positive 4, negative 8. Positive 4, negative 8. Whoops. Let me fix that. Positive 4, negative 8 would be right here. Positive 4, negative 8. So I took the opposite of this, positive 4, took the opposite of this, negative 8, and now that point is reflecting, it's reflecting across the x, and it's reflecting across the y. It's reflecting over both axes. All right, let's do another one of those where we reflect across both. So here I have the point 9, 1. So change both of them, change the x and the y. So I'm going to change that to negative 9, negative 1, which would be right here. Negative 9, negative 1. So you've reflected across the x, and you've reflected across the y by changing both coordinates. All right, let's do just a couple of questions. If point A, right here, if point A is reflected over the x-axis, right here, what will be its new location? We want to reflect over the x. Well, remember, if you want to reflect over the x, change the y. Change the y, take the opposite of the y. So what point is A? Point is -2, point A is -2, -3. So I'm going to change just the y. I'm going to change that to +3. -2, +3. And that's our answer. -2, +3 would be the location of our new coordinate. Let's try another one. This time point A is here. If I want to reflect that over the y, this time I want to reflect it over the y, what will be the coordinates of its new location? Well, let's find out where point A is. Point A is at -4, +2. So if you want to reflect over the y, change the x. Change the x. Take the opposite of the x. So that would be +4, 2. +4, 2. And that's our answer. +4, 2. All right, let's do one final question. Point A is right here. And this time I want to reflect over both of the axes. Well, you know how to do this. We need to change both the x and the y. Well, let's find out where that point is first. It's at -2, -3. So we need to change both of those points. We take the opposite of both points. So that would be 2, 3. 2, 3 would be right here. And you can see it's reflecting across the x and it's reflecting across the y. So 2, 3 would be our answer for that. So that's how you reflect points on a coordinate plane.